stitch. Oop. This meeting is being recorded, everybody. Yeah, masks might be a way to go in a more textile way, so more three-dimensional possibly as well. So there's quite an array. It might be worth you just photographing that screenshot that Rachel's sharing with you now on those. That image that is also up on the screen has got the home question. And we talked about artists for this as well as textile specific artists, looking at everyday scenes. There are some crossovers, so Rosie James would be another really good one for that because of the way that she does her embroidery. Laura McCafferty, which I think has just been slightly chopped off by the top of that for some reason. Maybe that was my dodgy photography. So yeah, Laura McCafferty, everyday scenes, rooms, domestic scenes, and going around their own homes, which are very maybe readily available as a source. So that's very much in summary for home. Plants, there's an absolute ton on there that you can screenshot or photograph as well. We thought about a lot of the students, that's been a popular one with mine as well. Looking at growth, decay, the cyanotype idea is mentioned as well, and you can do that onto fabrics. Botanical illustrations possibly as a starting point, silk painting, cast homes, life cycles of plants possibly, so sort of from seed to sprouting, growing, going into a seed head, and then decaying. William Morris as a more kind of old school traditional approach possibly might be popular. Angela Lewin and Orla Keeley for more commercial options as well. So quite a bit, and again, I'd imagine that will be quite a popular one with students on that one. Any questions about those three that I've just whizzed through? No? Okay. Rachel, do you think we'll be able to pop the other? So there's one that says there was narrative and make, do, amend for the AQA. Has anybody got any questions about that? Because I can go through those if Rachel is able to share that image that I sent through. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. So make, do, amend, very much to do with the war effort and offspring from that, sort of upcycling, recycling. So there's a number of artists on there as well, looking at maybe sort of poster design and wall hangings and propaganda posters. Hazel Bruce came up in conversation, Gwen Headley, as well as a number of others that are kind of scribbled around there. We live up north near a war museum, so I've sort of mentioned that, but if you live in anywhere near museums and galleries that might have references as well to that, there was a bit of discussion around those, as well as there are the questions themselves that outline. So the Japanese craft is mentioned and other artists as well. That hasn't been as popular with my students, but I don't know if it might well have been with others. And then narrative was the second question. So that's Laura McCafferty, again, crossing over Grayson Perry's tapestries, talking about modern life, but using very traditional techniques. We talked about the red dress, Bayeux tapestry, and the tents and tapestries of Tracy Emin as well. You have to be a bit careful with some of those, but these are A-level, so I think the content of them is okay for that age group. Looking at current affairs, stories in the media might appeal to some. And then you've got Colleen Atwood, who's an awesome costume designer. So there's a few others there. Oh, and Andrew Crummy as well came up and was popular alongside Rosie James again. She keeps popping in there, doesn't she, Rosie James? And Sue Stone. So that's the first 5 questions that we've got in summary. The final 6, 7, and 8 for AQA are paper, quilting, and maps. And again, Rachel will pop that up on the screen now. We'll just wait for her to upload that, and I will whiz through those with you. That's a great idea that someone's put in the chat for looking at flowers and their sort of use of them as well. Some lovely ideas being put in the chat. So paper, Susan Stockwell, Jennifer Collier's not on. Oh yes, she is. Yes, she is on there. First Cut exhibition is worth googling because it was again a big exhibition all about paper that was put on in a gallery. Origami, collage, paper mache. I've not written on there, but that again could come into it. Kirsty Whitlock, homemade papers. Fiona Hutchinson, Cass Holmes, and Daniel Wolfe. So a few there on the paper question. A couple of mine have really gone for that one. They like the keen to explore that, and actually they're coming up with some good stuff on that so far. Quilting, I'm not as well up on this as a process or a technique, but I'm sure maybe Nikki might be able to suggest some artists for quilting, possibly.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of answering somebody else on.
Oh, don't worry.
I'm typing in lots of things to Naomi about Union for Edexcel.
Oh, brilliant. No worries. That's okay. So I'll
I think she's the only Edexcel, I think, and it's only one theme. So we're just going through that theme together.
Oh, perfect. That's great idea.
But yes, I can come back if anybody wants to ask me. I'll go through I've got thousands. If you come back with particular techniques, you can either text me or email me, and I will go back with some artists from them. Happy to do that tomorrow.
Amazing. That's fine. So quilting, we got Thomas, Noah, Deborah Boschert, Joyce Hughes, Jane Howarth, Paula Kovrick, and there's quite a few others in there. In the question, Alexander McQueen, with his collection, is something one of my students has used really successfully. So that's a good quote and reference there within the actual question itself. Sarah Burton for her garments and designs as well. So quilting, I think, is quite a question that's very clear, really, what you could use in terms of the process. And it might be the source material and the sort of starting point. The theme for that is a little bit more open, possibly. And then last but not least, maps. So again, it could be that maps are used in a garment or beyond. And we've got Ed Fairburn, Mark Powell, Jane Hunter, Anna Biss, Alicia Merritt, Vanessa Barajeo, who does these amazing tufted world maps. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're a bit bonkers, but really interesting as a kind of starting point, possibly, for exploring an alternative technique. Just generally looking at cartography as an art form, and then using the shapes, patterns within that. Treasure maps, OS maps, Shannon Rankin, Julia Mackenzie, Susan Stockwell again has come in because she makes, Jennifer Collier, because they make sort of paper dresses out of maps, but could be something in that as well in terms of how they develop their designs. And then Ruth Piper, Valerie Goodwin, and Bonnie Peterson as well were ones that students were sort of responding to when we went through and had a look at the options for that one. So hopefully that's given you a bit of food for thought in terms of the AQA. I've sort of whizzed through that super quick because I'm conscious there are other exam boards. Hopefully that's helpful. If there's any questions, I'll try and answer them on the chat as well. Has anybody got any more sort of questions now before we move on?
Sorry, Becky, was it weaving you were after, artists?
Quilting.
Oh, sorry, quilting. I was going to say if it was weaving.
I just put my favourite on there. Kathy Gira's really good for landscapes.
Say that one again.
I don't know how you say her surname. Kathy Gira, is it? Geier. I'll put a link to her work, but she's one of my favourites when it comes to landscapes. I've got a book, but it's at school.
There's also Nicola Perrin for quilting.
Does she do quilting?
Yeah.
That's a good
She
one.
does some fabulous quilts.
Might make them parent.
Amazing.
Her website's a little bit, I wanted to say old, but that was a bit rude. I mean it nicely. There we go. Right, any other kind of techniques that people would like to know artists for, or what particular skill levels we're maybe focusing on? If anyone wants to talk about any new techniques that you might want to put the A-level students more to kind of enhance their skills a little bit more from GCSE? No, these sessions only work if you talk to us. They're not very good otherwise. We haven't got a PowerPoint to talk through, so we do need some communication, guys. Otherwise, they don't work very well. I mean,
Kind of done AQA and Edexcel. I think some people have put some things on there. If you're doing Edexcel and you're doing Union, can you push it down a little bit more into what particular area of Union you're looking at? And then we can come up with some artists. So is there somebody that's doing Educast that wants to start off? Please. Because there are quite a few of you there are doing Educast.
I'm doing Educast with mine. I've only got one student and she's doing Plethora, which is the last one on the exam board, on the exam paper. So I think at the moment she's like looking at architecture, like windows and like patterns within architecture, because she's quite keen on that. But apart from that, not really sort of any other directions that she's going to explore. I did look on ChatGTP, just as a sort of like, let's see what's out there for Plethora, and there was a lot about like layering and overload, like embroidery and embellishments and layering and texture. That's quite a good thought, and like the use of ruffles and pleats, on that like repetition. Global textiles as well was mentioned, Baroque and Rococo textiles, consumerism and waste, thought like fast fashion. Yeah, just a few sort of suggestions of techniques and things, but I've only got one student, so that's I haven't really looked at the other questions on there.
They do seem to repeating themselves, these themes a bit, don't they, from paper to paper, from board to board, which is helpful, I suppose.
Yeah, it's quite similar to like variation and similarity, which they had before.
Yeah.
So I've sort of geared her towards my Pinterest board for that one. But yeah, that's all I can really contribute at the moment.
In terms of the patterner question, you could look at the sort of rust and decay of architecture as well, maybe sort of peeling paint, that sort of side of things.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think just because of her last project, she looked at like decay of like coastal erosion. So I've said try and avoid like just doing the same thing again. But yeah, that's a good one.
Might just tie in a little bit as a side
yeah.
what she's doing, perhaps.
Any more from the Educast girls? Just Emma, as well as you.
Hi. Oh, I have. Sorry, I haven't got me. Oh, there we are.
Oh, hi, Catherine.
I'm Educast. I am. Mine have chosen creatures, and one of them's doing imagining. So the three that are doing creatures are looking at. Someone's looking at bugs, like sort of ladybirds, insects, sort of shells, that sort of thing. Moth.
Imagery is a great one, isn't it?
Yeah, one of them's taking it like sort of mystical creatures. They're looking at like more medieval type images, which is quite nice. So more sort of sort of like I'm looking at things like going to churches and like taking it sort of into gargoyles and things like that as well. The other one, not quite sure what she's doing yet, shall we say? It's got a lot. She hasn't sort of clarified where she's going to take it. The one that's doing imagining is actually taking it a different way because we had lots of Grace and Perry in stimuli stuff, but she's actually taking it a different way and like imagining into stories and going into like fairies, looking at it that way. So she's looking at like different books and films that have got like fairy themes as a starting point, and looking at a more sort of like costume um, sort of final piece rather than anything else. So we haven't really got a huge amount of very far with sort of research, looking at too many artists. One's got quite a lot of artists, the other three haven't got so many quite yet. They've got more imagery than anything else. But that's where I am with mine.
Another source that might be worth, well, it's a website called textileartist.org. They categorize things, so you can, guys, if you're looking, I'll pop it in the chat. But yeah, you can look through theme or technique on there, which can be quite helpful sometimes if students are in a bit of a dead end. I'll pop it on the chat.
It's worth looking at Nikki's Pinterest boards as well because she categorizes everything on there. So I'll put a link to the Pinterest page in the chat as well. I love the theme architecture, but that's one you've had time and time again, isn't it, Nikki?
Yeah, I was just actually sorry in my looking up sorry on my other screen. It's just I haven't got time to look up 10 at a time, but I am going over trying to look up all the artists, which I can come back to you on. It's just a bit tight to do it tonight. But do look on my Pinterest. There's lots of different boards on there, and there's an artist board on there as well. I was just looking up architecture at the moment, so I'll just come back to you.
I think was it Iris Van Harpen? Yeah, she's always really good for architecture, isn't she? She does loads of amazing stuff, and I love that someone mentioned Golpiak. She's one of my faves too. Like them. Are we going more down like the fashion route? Because is the AQA one fashion, Becky? Is it fashion textiles? Or is it just art textiles?
It's art textiles, but they can make garments. They can make concept pieces, wall hangings, sculptures. Yeah, it's very open.
Is anybody planning on going to any of like the new designers or anything like that, or any exhibitions? Because it might be worth looking at what exhibitions are near you. There is a website that lists them all out if you'd like me to share that as well. Because they're like going to new grad shows and things, or like when Huddersfield puts their exhibitions on, they're always really useful. I shall pop it in. Hold on.
Just for the flowers and somebody's mentioning sort of flowers and symbolism. Alexander McQueen did a range that was bonkers but magnificent in equal measure that might be worth looking at. And there's one I was looking at with my student today. I've not written it down. It'll come to me. I'll pop it in the chat when it pings into my brain in a minute.
Okay, what about OCR? Who's doing OCR? Nicole?
Annabelle, sorry, my thing says A. Franklin.
A. Franklin, yeah. We can't really hear you either. I don't know why.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Nicole Davies, who's that? Also doing OCR. Okay, you've all gone quiet.
Why not?
It's because me and Nikki are concentrating.
I can't hear you, Nikki.
I'm on thingy, sorry. I can't do it that quickly, sorry. I'm just trying to get them and then I'm trying to put them all onto a message thing, but I'll get there.
Hey, Franklin, what's your name?
Annabelle, but I don't know.
Oh, we
Is it
can hear you
working?
now.
Oh, we
Yeah,
can
we
hear.
can hear you now. Please speak.
So I've got 3 students, and they've all chosen different themes. So tropical, which I've got loads for because I feel that's quite a nice theme. I've got someone doing masks. So I've got a lot of sculptures, artists really for them. So if anyone's got anything for masks, that would be very handy. She doesn't want to do like a traditional mask. She's looking at cutting up faces and bits like that. So I did suggest Maurizio Anzeri, who stitches on top of faces. And I've also got a student doing Metamorphosis, but she's really kind of honed in on Iris van Herpen's Metamorphosis collection, which I don't mind. I would like to see other things as well, essentially.
Graham Pollock did one, but all on folklore for masks. So I don't know if that's any good. Let me
Oh,
see.
thank you. Yeah.
That one. It's woven.
Oh, that'll be nice.
There's Alexander McQueen for butterflies and
Yeah.
all the butterfly thing. I mean, I know that's an obvious thing, but then metamorphosis is going to be obvious, isn't it?
Could look at MC Escher for the metamorphosis as well, the sort of evolution of his images going from one form to the next. Just the visual side of that might be quite helpful.
I've just put a few in the chat. You might just want to copy and paste them onto something.
Yeah, thank you.
If they're helpful. Thread stories is really cool. They don't just do maths, but this one's like, it's really out there, so it might not be the vibe, but it's always a good one to look at. Can they not do like the Masked Singer? That'd be cool. Then they can like go off on a music tangent.
Good. But
Sorry, I'm so excited about that.
I don't know, she likes a bit of interest, this one.
Yeah, I'm a DT teacher, so I'm all like, avoid fixation. Give me 20 different artists, 20 different ideas. I'm like, whoo, off we go. Yeah, Emma Cassie's the one I said as well. They're really, really nice. Anything else anybody would like us to talk or anyone would like us to talk through any other artists? Or yeah, we haven't really spoke about techniques very much. Is there anything anyone's wanting to try that's new? I know we've got 2 people that are new to the course. So how are we making sure that the skill level is higher than GCSE? I think is always an important question. You know, if we're teaching shearing in GCSE, or sorry, shearing is such a DT term, isn't it? Apologies. Nikki, help me out. I'm too DT for you. What type of technique?
The step up from A level.
Yeah, just thinking in terms of skill, you know, if we're doing free machine embroidering in GCSE, then how are we making it? Are we using crashing and then putting free machining on it? Like how are we?
It's doubling up your techniques, but it's much more about them thinking outside the box. It's much more about how different and connected their outcome is to their themes and their artists. So, you know, when we just say about butterflies, it's got to be much more thought out and moved on from just a butterfly and just a butterfly wing and how you're going to interpret that. Yes, the techniques are important, and it's techniques that they possibly haven't used before and how they use it, like dissolvable fabric and how they techniques that the shearing crushing techniques that they might not use at GCSE, but it's much more about how they use it, where they use it, and the connection with their theme and their artist and their technique. It can't just be simplistic. It's got to be much more connected, and a different type of garment or product, possibly better made than they would have done at GCSE, possibly 3 or 4 and a build up to it. So if you're doing something, that the refined techniques will be much closer and much more of them. It won't just be a jump straight from one thing to the outcome, which is what GCSE students do. So I can do it via garment because that's what we used to do. But they'd make a sleeve, they'd make this, they'd make that, and then they'd put it all together, a different thing into a garment. And it wouldn't just be one garment; it would be a collection, or at least 3 or 4. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be overly complicated. They have to be much more of a sophisticated outcome, I think. Sophisticated is probably not the right word. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. They are much more refined, defined, and cleverer. They're not just basic. I've taken my artist, I've done a technique, I'm putting it together in a panel. It can't just be like that. And the outcome, so if you're doing something like architecture, the outcome's got to look like it's something to do with architecture. It's not just about producing something that's, got a print on it. Does that make sense? And I think they should be looking for artists themselves, possibly artists they haven't used before, possibly artists that are much more they can be looking at anything, to be honest with you. But sometimes I think it's quite good to have really, really modern artists that they won't have seen anywhere else, especially the moderator might not have seen them anywhere else. So it doesn't have to be anybody that's obvious that you've all seen before. And I think it's also good to link it to exhibitions. Somebody's just said on there about new designers. Mine went to new designers and found it invaluable. I know you don't all live in London, but it doesn't have to be artists. It could be, they're looking at other students and using them as artists. Yeah, it doesn't have to be designers or artists that they normally look at. So linked to an exhibition, I think is really good. And it's really important that they get their own primary and they are using their primary well, and that their primary is an original own source. There you go.
I'm still trying to find this hand artist. It's going to drive me mad now.
I'm
in my head.
Just copying names because they're so bloody complicated to spell.
I think New Designers is in March. I did just send some links as well for exhibitions that are coming up, and they're not all in London. So it's definitely worth having a look at the Textile Society, and then ukft.org. They have a long list of events that are coming up, and they are all over the country. Oh yeah, that's nice. I like the aging of the hands. The one that I saw with the hands it was all about feminism, and it was like protecting the body, and the hands were like all over the body. And I saw it in exhibition, and I'm trying to find it and I can't find it. Oh, is it in July? New Times? I thought it was March. Yeah. Emma's asking about time management. So you wanting to know like how people are planning lessons and how many weeks they're taking on different parts?
Well, mainly just because of Easter being where it is, with the 2 weeks where we have to have them, like we have to have the grades back to them. I just find that we're getting a shorter and shorter with A-level window. I think we've got 11 weeks until our exam. So that's just so little time. I know I'm going to have to do a day over Easter for my A-level students, which is absolutely fine. I just find that the more I'm doing it, the more that time seems to be getting. It feels so rushed for the A-level, not so much for GCSE, but that time frame that we now have to have the marks. They have to have a 2-week window for where they can disagree with the marks, all of that, then get the grades on. I don't know if I'm the only one that just finds that, and we've got to stagger hours because we've got students who do photography, we've got students who do 3D design and art, textiles. So all of those staggering means that they actually then knock forward on the exams as well. Am I the only one who worries about time and how much time they've got.
I'm sure you're not.
No, it's tricky. It's really hard. We've got some that are doing 2 endorsements as well. So that means you've got to find 30 hours of assessment. So we are in on a Saturday to help alleviate that. But yeah, the run-in time, it is tricky. We're doing the exam obviously after Easter and putting it as late as we can. It depends if yours go on. Do yours go on study leave?
No, ours I won't be going on study leave. I think for me, I've noticed that we're in a trust and they're all bringing in like trust-wide rules about like they want us to moderate, and we're not all at the same point of time. Like I know that my grades have got to be on for Educast by May 31st. I just feel like these 11 weeks that I've got will just go by in a flash. And I think I get anxiety over it every year that it goes so quickly. I just feel the January one for the GCSE just feels like an easier build up, whereas this exam, this externally set one, I just for me, I mean I've used chat so much this year for finding things that they can draw, for finding designers, and I found it really useful. And embraced it, but I'm still, and I only have a small class this year, which is really nice. But they're all really good. They're like they were all my best at GCSE, and so that handful have gone on to do A level, and that it's trying to expand their knowledge and their skill. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going on. I'm just finding it quite scary.
Do you get time off timetable for marking?
No, we do not.
Have you requested it?
So Trustwide has just gone out an email, to say like who gets it, because it's not a level playing field across the trust. So don't know, not really. I do work for the exam board, so I think I'm quite good at marking, and I've worked for them for a long time, and I've worked for them for A level, so I'm quite confident on the marking side of it. But no, we don't get time off in our school, but other members of our trust do.
Yeah, it's time that, it's nice to get back if you can. Yeah, so most people are doing workshops or, looking at coming in the holidays and doing a day. I mean, even I used to do that at school, so I'm guessing that's always been the case, isn't it?
Yeah, it shouldn't be, but it is. It is, because you want the best outcomes for your students, don't you? But it is. It's difficult. I think that there isn't an easy fix, and every school's deadlines and dynamics. Ours go on study leave the second week in May. So, and we have to get the shows and stuff up by then as well. So it is. It's just it's a really tight turnaround, and I think every school is very different. And one size doesn't fit all. But yeah, it is. I've heard lots of different scenarios of the way people break it down, but it really does depend on your group sizes and the dynamics of your department, how many other endorsements you do, how many staff you've got. There's so many variables. But yeah, it is. You're not, if it's any kind of reassurance, Emma, you're not on your own in feeling like it's a tight turnaround to get the outcomes and the level of work that your students are capable of in a quick yet efficient manner. There's an awful lot of plate spinning.
Okay, well, I am going to put on the screen the WhatsApp groups. So we did this with our GCSE group teams. With the A level, obviously there isn't as many of you, and there aren't as many of you in the same exam boards. But you never know. We'll share these on the Facebook page as well. So anybody that didn't join us this evening can join in these little WhatsApp groups. It's just a really good opportunity for you to share resources in there if you want to, and just generally have a chat. So we find the GCSE ones quite lively. People just messaging them all the time for support. I don't know if you guys are in those or not, but they are really quite useful. So I thought we'd just start one for the A level teams as well. So I'll just pop those up on the screen. Just scan the one which is relevant to you, obviously. And then that'll take you into those little WhatsApp groups. Hopefully I haven't made any spelling mistakes because I did rush them. I spelled the exam boards right, Nikki, because you're going to judge me right now, aren't you? She does. I can't hear you, so I'm assuming it's all good.
I'm not very good at unmuting myself this evening, sorry. I'm very tired. They're perfect. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, Margaret, that's smart.
I'd love to have done that, Margaret, if they wouldn't let me.
See, we've just moved to BTEC for GCSE, and it sounded great until you see the paperwork.
I can help you with that. I did BTEC. There are ways around it. Rachel, give us a shout.
I've got to get through my hospitality and catering exams first. Yeah, it's clever. If your schools will let you do it, that does make sense, doesn't it?
Oh, I'd love to have done a different board. They wouldn't let me.
Emma, can we find out what your trust is doing and you just off-road completely? Just pick a completely different exam board to your whole trust.
Yeah, well, I told them all to go to with Educast because I was like, when we went to group, we all had to go to one board. So we all went to Educast. But now I've seen people have started to leave Educast. So I don't
Take
know.
yourself over to AQA by yourself. Don't let anyone know you're going.
No, I love Educast. I couldn't leave
I know.
them. I'm Educast for life.
Right, well, hopefully those WhatsApp links have worked. And like I said, if you think of things later on, or if you're with a student and you just need to ping a quick message because they need some sort of resource, then do use these as an additional pool of resources for you. And then Nikki and myself, we can share bits in there as well. Nikki, I haven't put them in yet because you're not invited into them yet. But I'll put you in there later.
That's fine.
But yes, so do use those as an additional resource. I'm just going to stop the sharing of that, but I will put the whole slide into the group messaging chats. Hopefully everybody's got it. And that probably brings us to the end for tonight. It will cut us off quite abruptly shortly. So if there's any kind of final questions that anybody would like to bring to the table, or if there's anything else that you've got any worries about, that, it's not just about, the particular scenarios or briefs, sorry, but, just particularly, now's your last opportunity.
I don't think there's a minimum amount of artists and designers that they should do, but they need to do them in depth. I mean, I always say 3 per project, but I mean, I'm sure people do anything up to 6, but it depends. Sometimes you might have an artist just for colour, you might have an artist for something else. So it's not just about the amount, but they just need to make sure that they've got an artist that they can really get their teeth into, and take as much out of that artist as they can. So our choice of artists at A-level is really, really important.
Can I just ask, I've got 2 students in year 13 and they're really relying on print all the time from the previous textiles teacher being a print specialist. How are you guys, if they're really heavily into one thing, are you encouraging them to explore into other textile techniques?
If they're really heavily into that, that's fine by me, really. The moderator's not good. Moderator's not going to know that.
No, because our head of department's getting really fed up. She's like, I'm fed up with all this print work, and is kind of trying to get us to do other stuff.
I was a print specialist, so that was really.
Sorry, no offense.
I really shouldn't answer that. But I had another teacher who was more of a specialist on the other side, so I suppose we evened ourselves out, and we both taught the same group. So, I mean, it's only 2 students, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, next year probably there might be something completely different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could encourage them to layer on top. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
You could encourage them to layer on top of the prints, couldn't you? If they love printing as a base, start them off with that, and then adding into it. Can they stitch over the top of it? Can they patchwork into it? Maybe just like
Margaret's just
challenge them.
said, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's what I've been trying to do, but they just seem really
have you
like
seen those
stuck.
scripts that you can get? The art department uses them in mine, and it's like change one color, change one shape, cut something up. It's like they've got the art department have got like a 10 script thing to make them really kind of get out of their comfort zones. Maybe as like a one-shot lesson, give them a script where they need to like completely jazz it somehow. So yeah, you could start with 3 if you want, like cut it in half and stitch it back together again, or I don't know, change the color of this, or yeah.
If they're doing
Okay.
if they're doing a print, Victoria, have you considered, I mean, if you want to make it really sophisticated, have you, depending on what the print is and how it's been done, have you considered sending it away to be printed 2 or 3 meters of it?
No, we haven't actually. And that's a really good idea.
Because although I'm not dissing anything everybody else has said, but although they can do this and that and t'other with it, which is absolutely perfect, you could actually, if you feel that they've got the most perfect print or the most perfect design and it is utterly amazing, you could send it off just like they do at a degree show, just like they do at new designers, and get like 1 meter, 2 meters printed of it. Or if they've got 3 different designs, they could have 3 different. I mean, a print is enough for it to be just the print. They could have, say, 3 prints printed beautifully on silks or whatever, and then one of them could be made up into quite a simple garment if they've got really sophisticated prints. And on an A-level show, that can look really stunning if they are fabulous prints and printed well. That's not cheap, but you've only got 2 students. So I'm thinking, if they really are into that, you're not going to get them away from that. Go for it, but go for it really sophisticated wise.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you.
I marked a private school who did that every year. Who've done that, and then they used them into everyone printed it off, and then they made them into a lampshade as well. So the piece of fabric was a lampshade and a selection of prints, and there's something else on there as a display, and they always scored really highly with it.
Yeah, it's just a money thing. It's just an expense thing. But if you've only got 2 students, then you're not
it's a good idea.
Not encouraging 10 people to be like hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, folks.
Right, well, thank you ever so much for everybody for joining us. Do utilise the resources that we've shared with you this evening, and if you've got any questions, then please feel free to let us know. Like Dawn says, our next tea and chat is on the 25th of February. That is with me, and that is on behaviour management in a textile classroom, probably more tailored towards Key Stage 3 and not your A-level students, and I'm sure you guys have got that all under wraps by now, but just in case you'd like some tips, we will see you there.
Take care. And there's the careers chat as well coming up in March.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, yay. Good luck. You're all going to do amazingly because we know we trust you. Hair looks great, Dawn.
Jet lagged. Look at me, been on holiday for a month.
God, you can't see my tan, but I have got a tan here somewhere.
You two are disgusting.
Thank you so much, Becky. Becky, you were brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky.
All right? I mean,
you did AQA perfectly. We just fudged the rest.
Can you stop the recording, Rachel?
Working on it. Just working on it.
And save the chat because that's got a lot of the artists in.
Yeah, whoever's got it.